Bawumia camp papa ne yakasa tinsem bi wo ho a o de papa si yanka ya no ntu ye magyan yewura Bryan so oya busua me busua ni wa unity se obeko presidential ni ana so we dey nya
so wati committee so mun ko hwemu
whatever it is he has shown interest so obeko me de onukura anim se me wo Dr. Bawumia site
abusafo ye mo bibi akwaba Enfamra Mega TV and platform we eso Daaku one of the communications team member our yura Dr. Bawumia ne camp na maami we chire mu a yura Dr. Bawumia anka no ye the flag bearer edman MPP amanyuku e call 2024 abato no o chire mu a ye papa Kennedy Agyapong ensema oka ewo Mampong ana woka no kware menu enim se no kware na papa ne ka no Daaku chire mu a Dr. Bawumia frɛ communications team mo kasama ni nyina na nsema okasere o mo ni se ma obia fi Kennedy Agyapong ti asem ni ye ma obia respond to ye papa Kennedy Agyapong abusia ensem no ye bedom asukọ but before then no me pese ye be ko ni kwakuti sa nsem na Daaku editu edwa no yakoba na medina kai na atoa so e platform we eso
mi camp papa ne yakasa tinsem bi wo ho a o de papa si yanka ya no ntu ye magyan mo koso aka mo ye mu bi so ne mo nya adwun ama ma papa ye di na chi si ye nto ye bo ase se me
kan che Dr. Bawumia say nkunude wo ko achi
bra
anti dabi nkunude wo ko achi ohini bia nso wa bodin no akoda ntuzi afro bi osabere ma afro bi okoji abo ayefro bi ayi osagefo ni nyina wakoda wo
because I don't want to make a catch and go. I do be a and to be Busasamo and you're Bryan Agyapong. Miami MP. Some women is a milk when you have me fear betifi. You're Bryan so or your busia me busian. Why unity say obeko presidential and I so we didn't
so at committee so mun ko hwemu
whatever it is he has shown interest so obeko me de onukura anim say me wo Dr. Bawumia site nti nyame boa na committee ne bakra no ose obekwa nya dia mimi yi be ho afri Bawumia site as it is now I am on Dr. Bawumia site but oyemi nia panyi oyemi busuani there's no way me amafosu ya da kwa me firi kwa betifi me ba be bie ma no akasa ti Bryan Agyapong if you say Bryan Agyapong ne nkrofo obi ankasa ti Dr. Bawumia
na absolutely no akranka sent you be our party mu da
onye bi da
me hu so aye ni anti party con
Bryan Agyapong unity so okope Kennedy ne nkrofo Kennedy Agyapong nkrofo atomo ani asi Bryan Agyapong so obo kra ye me wanwa enne na mahu se Bryan Agyapong akodi nkoko sika Bryan Agyapong edi nkoko sika nkoko ben timelines no kra won no kra na nyo na minister so that should tell you the kind of people omoye divisive people omoye what did Dr. Bawumia tamsa yeah wo Bawumia chi bia ya no kakra bia na mubu afu na me ka kire mo ha studio ha ya na me ka kire mo sama no nya ya nchan
in fact mo the national chairman
anya ya nchan ye mo di obi atem
Bawumia mo di national chairman na busua be issue
ai mo di national chairman atem mo di general secretary atem mo di organizer mo di obi atem asi Bryan Agyapong so ba na ya so mo say ati esi no Sweden atem adam ye nipa ben ye nya modan sani amekan no Dr. Bawumia say ye nto ye bo ase enti ye kasama Dr. Bawumia ne
say for the sake of peace we go to war nti eno so ho
but we make catch them anya bia within the next few days doc cassette
and the kadum amati mami kamiso mami kabibi nti o me no open na me catch o
na open
dog tio ada ti me na me catch say doc the can dey onka nti mo ba fam ho adira mo fam ho adira why na no so hia nti say mo twen Bawumia pa so me ka say ama me ko kabi nchire no Bawumia onka da nti ende am fam ho adira Chris
what I say nti we ensema Daaku editu edwa ochire mu a ye papa Hon Kennedy Agyapong de yewura Dr. Bawumia yewura Dr. Bawumia say ma obian responded to him I was avo afraid the mo Bawumia ni true colors biwie na ma ba be kire odie ntia Daaku nya kokoduro aba abontie Nyankopon ayi ni sokrata a amani at me I confess live on television, wouldn't me TV. I think the Movement TV, right? Live on Movement TV. And I'm being no, I can't ask him now. Onim say bia na wanya asem papa bi na waka, but onim se na o expose Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia e wo kwan bi eso. Na miwie na mabedomo sukọ na mama mate ni bi ase. Na wo ye obi a sebi wo ye papa Hon Kennedy Agyapong udi na chi a, you have to be strong and you have to be what, remain calm. Papa no obati se kakai obi ani ho betimi asizi na so obi ani ho betimi ayden akase yewra Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia ebetimi overtake papa Kennedy Agyapong there be that ensida me na make take it from me. Yewra Kennedy Agyapong is going to be the flag bearer for MPP in 2028 to win election. Me na make I am saying it, take it from me, to win election 2028, because Yewra John Mahama Yekono me metiano me hu NDC nipa bi obetimi aye popular a obetimi take over from Yewra John Mahama sebi obusi binyado obetimi ama oman na konenim me hwe pa dia me de mani hwe ma ebia moving forward no and me hu sankofo, because me hu so mo kan nya no they are easily to manipulate, they are easily, they are soft for that. Anyway, young for me see. And young Kotian and Ajantwa of Insha FM. And some of their two Munim Sandra, some Nate George, Ningo Member of Parliament, and also Essan Minister of Communication and Digitalization, about Bunting, adding and Saibia about the data bundle from 1st July. Echo. Born in the month so na mum only take off for nakasa or my den omudi prices in about 10% akeka bia ho some specific package bi omudi akeka ho etime person makasa bebiri yanko na yanko tina na dwanto wa praise some not George wa catch and say why are there abona baso any ndc aban omonyiro mo ho because the network in the enyum but omo force so omo fix it enyama yanko tie nana dwantoa was a submission we cover another information at that point so I don't be do build up
bosso next one is still a strike no mujinem kama omu say aban be dey huru mo emfa omu so afin so data ne boarding pa data boarding pa broche for no omu nim say wifi ade ba ko a okwa amanoni a omuye eni say internet a ene aba be kan ye life ho no ewo form pa. I remember in Germany me wo ho no chipa me toye yemfa ni say me pese me bo network bi adi wa ha, but even such chip no network na me toye ho no omu say eno na asenkofuo mu kra eno, but network ni gina so kama network no e gina so kama a che say internet ye adwuma kama wifi ye adwuma kama network na ye befa ni say ahagana ha kebeka se network nketo ani bi no Germany de me toye no enso me hu se network akate me hu se problem aba o friend so a clear very clear nemo mo ba Ghana ha oba Ghana ha networks ni nyina anye papa mi nyi otwe nyi adoa networks ni nyina anye papa e wo Ghana ha wafre obi o de hello sir hello ni nyina nso etel inti say 20 seconds mentio ma menkate na memfre wa eda so koso network enso network boarding ubetua and every ayibia no MTN me talk about 350 or something and mama 92 gig oh yeah na so ni etel o download bibia na etel se ebe bampo mi wo tigo network baako mejai because network no data was so enso ntimi nyusu Telecel Vodafone baby wo kra na mi fio mi nya dru baby am wona na atekọ Vodafone Telecel ye kan tell ya nton kra nke ye free Vodafone ba Telecel kra de mi nhye de hu so yen kan okre mo sponsor yen but we want the best for you. MTN, Airtel, Tigo, Vodafone, Telecel, you are not giving us the best of data and network. My network in here poor. Obetimi a friend MTN, hello, mintio, hello, mint, sa, me one so say 10 seconds to cry MTN Bejini Sika, on Fancho.
In Shirai FM.
You can want some, data mo de maye, and so bedu baby not data and in yet, mo say 4G, and so 4G no, and yes, honey experience it. Oh, why near the SMS message we near to basa. Oh, why? Now obi afro obi amosi a register now so ye nyankrofo momutimi etimi ba behia ye mobile money etimi hia into time bia no ye nse dan hu de ekoso etatigon entesa in terms of even mobile money Telecel entesa MTN nkoa de mobile nkofo timi rem no ma ba behia ko ofro ma na ye basa emre bi kra de me frame MTN office me ni omu preso a me say ma send the wrong money. I am near man who says he can many free ho. Famadi mammy, I will say just after 15 days, we say then day. Hey,
in Shirai FM.
After 15 days, he's saying, made the mad diaco. Why won't some transfer free me? You am diacon, say, Adiana me de coye, no. Patron from Sicambremi because, and yes, I know me person day, or say chankakra. Main chankakra say, now won't see me no chankakra. Now no me banki be. Me call ya me say problem ni ma transfer sika ne ma o se tobo ase within 5-6 hour pa na me sika sa e de aba o ma nche wo ho o frame tie no nko a yes e be 5 days yes e be 3 days yes e be 15 days networking so enye papa Telecel networking nso e ba enye papa e30 go 80 no kra de bobo enye papa ene eti kroma
in Shirai FM
I customer ye customers no Yenny customers say aye mo support ye in sika fam nanso min fama no nka bibia enye papa minim se masum ye ba mo network MTN mo network Airtel mo network Telecel mo network enye papa mo data no nso a ye ntumi nyusu bosome so a na magema de o ton so a ne bo dindindin yetimi ka say den kokroko bundle near Mawa within 1 day penasa. What kind of life is this? Meanwhile, so we are in the internet world. We are in the what we call machine learning, Internet of Things. Yeah, the network need data ni BBA. And yet, copy say, Yentimin can wash it. Moji ya boarding and a moment a good networker. Any problem? And can network ye papa. And can sabi will be a 2 or 3 chips. Kobi an koto sa de no because me nim say tell Tigo and e be ma me networker and e was some koto MTN chip but Ghana ha anya bi obi wo 2-3 oni Vodafone or Airtel Tigo oni why because we to be a network ne ma to be a na say me wan so mu gi esika
in Shirai FM
dia no enti I am so glad with Honorable Sam George say odi san hihye we yaba waya de say ye tisika koto ye the 300 and something kwa koto data na data yet 92 gig say ye the co over 200 something 214 gig and that is a plus when ye kaso be sorry anopa na aban bi se oti yesu na oye sa adwuma no and anopa me da John Dramani Mahama say and Sam George say my ade say na ye pe say aban uye ni ye a ye be kamfo wanye ni ye nso a ye be fire wo say ni e pese be sorry na aban ti yesu because ye bra Sam George owo position no o kan sem ni bebre Ghana for the good ni so no wa act say from next month no say we to data no de wo to no a ye de market one say ye be ma bebre aka ho when ni aban papa asem ya na ye ka ho asem no
in Shirai FM
aban ni say obema ye ho atoyen aban ni say enya fi ne ekotenase bebre or say 1 man and what did that school and 11 June actually so after July na tese me tam misika first 350 and 399 na metimi enya gigi bebre Sam George nyame nhyiraw minim say ye fellow ye katanji te se me a nti ye ni so ohye ye ni so odin and I am rough and confirm shadam and to us saying shadam to us because almost said Debbie because we are Katangia. You say rest not Katangi, ye home back on Katanga. You say rest not to say young chim mount. Yama umesisi yam pencil, ye near Dane. What you say? Ye near Dane by Boadier. Yera Sam George Yamisha. Era John Mahama, Yamisha say, what's a gun of force who say, MTN, Airtel, Talisa, and I say for no musisi. No musisi. They say, what's here soon? O say, Yamia Dum from next month. Ye toa data never cost Ramay, not gun and in so, Nenia J.
And she riot fan.
Say near Cano. I buy this was sorry, no pano beer, cast out with the wire, dear. Now, no dear me bufu ye. Someone ya dear on that D levy. And they say, Miss Wire, dear. Jechesa, we any year, Mecca. We any year, Mecca. Why are dear? Yera John Mahama, Yamin Shrow. Say near per se who say, oh boy. Now, Baquem a buffon is a man who say MP before Cabby.
And she riot fan.
Man who say MP before air Cabby. MP before Casse, and dear, and Sam George, and I was so young in term, and Sela ne boarding. MP before to be a money who as a man, MPP. MP before can be said, Sam George, Edia call 214 something gigamaying. Momo time, nay 92 no. As a man, and yet John Mahama and the course are Mo buying Oslo Usu. Sabrina na Ghana for complaining say data board no Oslo Usu emu obia. MPP abaya emu obia. In fact, obe catch you say data there Ghana hakra no efo. Moma buy Emma MTN ye ka na make MTN na make no kratro MTN na mani hunu nyina ne say eduru maybe MPP abai na nkasa ma MTN ho kire no na MTN phone timi nkasa enti MTN na no mo nso yo madwen say data no omo betum no because of MPP abai.
And she riot.
I am telling you today, it was because of Osla Owusune MPP abai and the ma MTN afie dru baby no data ni wo bi wo krom yi free ho. It was because of MPP abai. Osla Owusu eka ho and no ma MTN afie because they realize say MTN nyini dodo. MTN nyini dodo. Enti e kwan bia o mema MTN aba from kakra se de be ya other networks like 80 Airtel Tigo any Talisa Vodafone aba animu no. Enti they did everything to frustrate MTN. MPP abai, I am stating it today that MPP abai did everything to make sure say MTN ne dominance no ebeko from. Enti adie bia na ebema nipa buafu MTN no eno na MPP abai ye omu sheda kan ketisi Oslo Wusu. Enti ina smart say ma fire MTN for no. The other side they say na your data ne boaye den na wo to data wo MTN ne boaye den no. It was because MPP abai led by Osla Owusu kan kabi eno yes ah mamimbo video bi me de ukwaachiri yenti Osla Owusu chamre na Ghana for complaining no yenti de okan.
Ghana is one of the countries on the continent with affordable internet, but we're not satisfied just with being one with affordable data. We understand that the more people use it, the more expensive it becomes for them. So we're working with the network operators to see what we can do to reduce the cost of providing data services. I've mentioned one initiative that we're working on, which is the Rural Telephony Initiative. Government is providing the infrastructure, and the telcos are going to use it to deliver the services. So it cuts down the cost of providing those services. So for those on that rural telephony network, they will be paying lower rates than the normal commercial networks. We've also mandated national roaming and shared infrastructure. This national rural telephony network is a shared infrastructure. Government is providing it, all of them can use it. Now we've told them that if they have excess capacity in any part of their network, they should lease it to their other competitors, so that it cuts down the capital cost of providing the services, and it enables them to also derive revenue from other sources, not necessarily from the customer. Ultimately, the savings made will be passed on to the customer. So between shared infrastructure, national roaming, the rural telephony network, we're working to reduce the cost of data for the subscriber ultimately.
Enti utie brofo kakraka ya na dien na data ebo wo form na aban egusu ohwehwe se de be ya omomuwo ekron ketewa mu no omu data omu toni omu network ne ebeba form sa same way okan 4 years ago muntie o me ade a mempe ya ye me hini nyaatwom tina mi busa se MPP for se nyamia ya aduma ma John Mahama ne Sam George etimi apushi ama data na ne boarding se woto a ye de bia ka ho no otiwo complaini minim se ba yio se ye dien yo ba yi bonsam ne se obi ye bibi na enye wo fe wo what na say ama ya ton ade na boarding obi aba aban a waba ND 6 months watimi apushi ama ade na ada hwa for over 4-5 years no say ye pushi ama data ne bo ekosoro no o ka kire ye se onya ade na sala ne boarding na wo time na oslo wusu se Ghana data ne bo ofo enti yento data ne saa no na ti se ekura simple na sabi ekura nketua mu mpo no mi busa se data te sen wo ho mo amuti ekura nketua mu no mu data sam te sen se mo to a empty because me hwe MTN na MTN ni bibia ye ka se mo amu wa ekura mu data ni ebi ni so se wo to data se sie ya let me try it and see me boss star 170 hash MTN na me na me pese me to data me pese me hwe se ya tro ba bi se ekron kituem ana village data according to Oslewusu in 4 years ago no pese me busa enti me call star 170 MTN mabo okay ma me hwe de beba me busa ade o 4 years ago and also the airtel bundle mabo 3 na me hwe options na eba no me hu airtime internet bundle first broadband schedule airtime ma me call internet bundle into 2 no de me hu nie buy data bundle 1 2 midnight bundle 3 kokroko bundle and 99 mti me press 99 na ehon na ya me kono me call 99 na ya kire se social media bundle video bundle IDD bundle and ose more mti me call 7 more no me call more na de kire me say ye wo combo bundle browse from main accounts check me hu akrase bundle bia aban ka say obeye sa network no wow maka kire say empanyufo no politicians kasa yenhwe omu mienu politicians omu kasa oka we 4 years ago and no complaining MPP for complaining say Sam George na watimi apushi ama yeto data ebe cost from next month no oso wanya ade
abusafo enti nsem no asise de na chese yemfo do to hono na yenko Kwesi Pratt Junior enso eye the inside the ubonkrata no the inside the ubonkrata no ene yesamfo editor chief editor managing editor what ase managing director no eno ohwehwehwehwem se ade babonti ebetimi agina no aso kwa the founder of Pan African TV abusafo orewe ache na adwen afa Nurses and Midwives Association almost strike ya eguswa ekoso ya kabia wonti ase anano I think said nura your health minister ye friend Dr. Minta Kando Kabina Minta Dr. Kando and I saw a doctor na I think so a doctor onye doctor won fanche meti for na refo yonkoti nsema Kwesi Pratt Junior Bryan no copy good morning Ghana show ni so and some of the two jana yakoba last one na me di expose na twaso na me di expose na twaso dentia Bawumia ne camp ni waka chro mu se ma omumfi ye papa Kennedy Agyapong ni nsem obeka bia mu ana no meme this answer. Maybe I expose them. I will expose them. But before then, you could take a Sipra Junior, the Kobe Betos.
There are several dimensions to this fight.
Okay.
It's not as straightforward as others would want us to believe.
Right.
The first complication is simply that it's not all the nursing associations which are on strike.
Right.
Indeed, it is the Ghana Registered Nurses Association which has declared a strike action. I've heard representatives of other two nursing associations, say very clearly that they are not part of the strike. And they've gone on to say that the Ghana Registered Nurses Association has treated them with gross disrespect and so on. And therefore, they were unable to lend their weight to the strike action, even though they consider the demands legitimate demands. That's an important dimension which we ought to take into account in this conversation. Now, the other dimension is typified, or is brought into full relief by a story which was actually told on Radio Gold yesterday morning. There's a doctor, medical officer, who says that he has to carry out surgery on a midwife. And he doesn't have the courage to continue the process because of the strike, because he doesn't know whether complications will develop after the surgery and how that would impact on the health of this midwife. So he calls the midwife and says, look, I'm afraid that your surgery cannot come on. And the midwife's response is that she will make some special arrangements to take care of her recuperation. That's interesting. That's interesting.
What is this special arrangement?
She works in the hospital, so she can get nurses to come and look after her.
Interesting.
Because she works in the hospital. She can make some very special arrangements for her care. I'm just wondering, how many Ghanaians, if they find themselves in this situation, can make special arrangements for their care, their after-surgery care? How many? The Kayayes, the taxi drivers, the trotro drivers, the peasant farmers in the rural communities and so on. If they are faced with this situation that this midwife faces, would it be a sentence of death? Could it be a sentence of death? So that's another dimension that we have to look at. Then, of course, there's the dimension of the enjoyment of democratic rights by all citizens. And all citizens have a right to withdraw their services. The right to strike is a democratic right. How do we enjoy this right or insist on enjoying this right, without consideration of the consequences in some instances of the enjoyment of this right? That's another dimension that we've got to be looking at very, very seriously. Then, to what extent would we condone illegality? That's another dimension. Because from even what you read this morning, this strike was declared illegal by the Labour Commission. And last night I was hearing that a court had also affirmed the position of the Labour Commission that there's an illegal strike.
And they'll take a decision by consulting their lawyer. That's what they said. They said they've not been served.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter whether they've been served or not. There are processes that unions, associations and so on have to go through before the declaration of strikes. So strikes can become illegal. You understand? Do we condone illegal strikes or we don't? That's another dimension. Now, the other dimension simply has to do with the health of the economy, and that is the position that the finance minister and other people in government appear to be advancing. And they're saying that, look, this whole package, including the 13th month pay, you know that the nurses are saying that they should be given a 13th month pay.
Yes.
So they'll be paid for 12 months, but there'll be a 13th month
yes.
pay. You understand? And they're saying that, look, all of this will throw economic management out of gear.
So let me perhaps let me walk viewers through what their demands are, or you'd want to land before I do that.
No, I'm just pointing out the complexity of the matter. It's not a very simple matter. There's another dimension which has to do with the health of the national economy.
Right.
And the possible ripple effect that this industrial action could create. You understand? So, I'm unable to piece it all together, but there are different dimensions to this industrial action by the strike. There's one other, and perhaps you would help us to verify the story. We are told that the leader of the Ghana Registered Nurses Association actually declared a strike and jumped on a plane and left the country.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, fact. It's
Is
not
it
a
a fact?
Yeah, she's out of town. In fact, the
She
minister
declared a strike and flew out of the
Yes,
country.
the minister said one of the difficulties he has in even dialoguing with the leadership of the association is because they're out there.
So how is the matter going to be resolved when the leaders are flown out of town? And how are their members taking this situation where their leaders have declared a strike and are not available to engage government to address the very concerns that they have raised? That's another dimension which I find extremely interesting. Let me say interesting for now. You declare a strike and you fly out of the country. You don't want to be reached. You cannot be reached. Your demands cannot be discussed. Unbelievable.
But why are the followers tolerating this? The followers, why are they tolerating this?
But I've raised that issue also.
Oh.
Because the members of the association, you have leaders who have declared a strike and who feel so responsible that after declaring the strike, they leave the country, they cannot be reached. What?
That's her. She's out of town.
Unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe this. But there's another dimension.
Yes.
Okay. So, as far as I'm concerned, look, there is no worker in Ghana whose conditions of service are satisfactory.
True.
No worker in Ghana. Now, if you go to the ministries, you find senior staff who cannot make ends meet. Everywhere you go. I mean, the economic situation has so deteriorated that everybody is struggling to make ends meet. You understand? So we need to understand that the nurses may have very legitimate grievances. But is it only nurses who have legitimate grievances? I don't think so. The cadres of the political parties, if you go to the New Patriotic Party, workers at the headquarters of the New Patriotic Party were complaining bitterly 2-3 weeks ago. They haven't been paid. They haven't been paid since January. You understand? Workers in the headquarters of the New Patriotic Party are complaining. They have a legitimate grievance. Many cadres of the National Democratic Congress are complaining that they don't have jobs. And that they expected that when their government came into power, job openings would be available and so on. There are no openings. They are still unemployed. They are struggling to survive. Now, you talk to commercial drivers. Just talk to commercial drivers. Many commercial drivers are unable to make daily sales. And if you don't make daily sales, car owners take the vehicle from you and you become unemployed.
Yes.
So commercial drivers go to money lenders at the end of the day. When they are not able to make their daily sales, they go to money lenders and borrow in order to pay their daily sales. That's how bad things are for commercial drivers and so on. So you're living in a country in which the working people really are suffering. And their demands deserve concern. And I'd like to place this nurses' strike within the general context of economic hardship for workers and so on. Now, how do we resolve this? Do we resolve this by recourse to strike action, by different sections and so on? How do we resolve this problem? These are the issues that we face. Because, look, we can resolve the nursing strike today and wake up tomorrow morning with sanitation workers' strike.
But the mortuary workers are also...
And then you resolve that.
You've heard about the mortuary workers.
Yes, you resolve that. And then the next day, the doctors are on strike. And then we resolve that. And then the next moment, engineers are on strike. And then the next moment, commercial drivers are on strike, and so on. This is where we have gotten to. So we need to find a solution to this crucial problem of an economy which is not able to meet the needs of its people. That's where we are. That's the issue before us. It is not just a nurses' strike, but a general problem of a failing economy which is not able to address the concrete needs of the people, whether they are peasants, whether they are nurses, or whether they are truck pushers. This is the crisis that we face.
But you see, I get the point, but safe to say that in this particular instance, an agreement had already been reached, by the government of Ghana, whether MPP or NDC. An agreement had been reached. And so for these labor body, they are not dealing with a party government. They're dealing with the government of Ghana. And so we came to you with a proposal as government of Ghana. And you gave a counter proposal, back and forth, back and forth. We agreed on something. And then we signed. And that's why they call it a collective agreement, which is supposed to be would serve as their conditions of service. Never mind the fact that there was another group made up of about 80 or so who decided to go to court because they said, this collective agreement is not good for us. It doesn't serve our purpose. And so they went to court, back and forth, back and forth. January this year, the court gave the final verdict. Now, as far as they are concerned, now that the court has given its final verdict, it then paves the way for the in their view, smooth implementation of this collective agreement, or basically an MOU which we have signed. Okay, go see. So, question for them is that, why did you agree, this deal with us, and then turn around to say the economy can't take it? Do you get where they're coming from? Yeah. So which is which? No, that's what the problem is.
I fully understand the issue you're raising.
Yeah.
But there are some nuances which can also not be ignored.
I agree.
You're talking about secession. So NPP was in power.
Yeah.
Whatever commitments NPP made are deemed to be passed on to whoever assumes power after NPP. So to that extent, you're right. That's the correct legal position to take.
Right.
But you see, at the same time, it's important to realize that one government may feel that, look, we can sacrifice other things in order to cater for a particular need. Another government may come and say, no, I don't think that we need to sacrifice X, Y, Z in order to cater for another need. That's also reality, which we have to be confronted with. So we had a situation where this agreement was reached with the NPP administration. And then there's a new administration which has come and says, so let us develop a roadmap for implementation. As a matter of fact, I haven't heard anybody saying that throw the agreement away. They're saying that let us develop a roadmap for implementation.
In fact, there are two issues. Is let's develop a roadmap, but before we develop the roadmap, can we take a second look at of this collective agreement? Because the current administration honestly thinks that this is too much to bear, even going forward. Now, the nurses are saying that we can't renegotiate because it is even against the labor laws.
No, it does appear that we are.
So that's where we are
hearing from different sources.
Okay.
Because as I was driving into the studio this morning, I heard Mr. Akando, the Minister for Health, saying that, look, we sympathize with the nurses.
Right.
We know they have legitimate grievances and so on. But let us sit down and develop a roadmap. Okay. Now, some of the nurses are saying that, no, we are not going to sit down to develop a roadmap because that would be a negation of the agreement.
Yeah.
That's the argument they are making. So whatever it is, I would, if cool heads will prevail, advocate in the immediate convocation of a Labour government forum to discuss not just the issue of nurses, but all the problems that confront organized labor and non-organized labor. So that there's a blueprint which applies to everybody. It needs to be done now, because otherwise we're going to head into crisis. And we're going to head into a crisis which is not the fault of the current government. The current administration came and met this crisis, okay? But the way to solve it is not to deal with nurses separately, deal with teachers separately, deal with drivers separately, deal with engineers separately, and deal with doctors separately.
Right.
We need to have a comprehensive approach which takes account of all the difficulties that we encounter, and an approach which also recognizes that the working people are suffering. An approach which recognizes that there are many workers whose so-called take-home pay is not sufficient to pay for transportation from home to work and back to home. That's the reality. You understand? There are people in this country who are getting 500 cedis a month, and they have wives and children, and so on. So we need to review all of this together.
Right.
One, we want industrial peace. We don't want economic collapse, and we want to improve the conditions of work and life of the working people.
Right.
This is what we want to do.
Okay.
And we need to create some very, very special forum immediately, to address this question. This is not a problem for the Ministry of Health. This is a problem, is a multi-sectorial approach that we need to do now.
So if you look at the demands, majority of them border on money. And obviously it would have some kind of a fiscal impact, and could possibly throw a budget out of gear. So let me walk you through some of them. So what you're asking: book and research allowance, uniform allowance, fuel allowance, 13th month allowance, which Uncle Chrissy Pratt talked about earlier. There's night out of station allowance. There's vehicle maintenance allowance. There's kilometric allowance, and then there's funeral grant, and there's annual professional license renewal fees. And these are their demands. There are a number of others, I'll look for them, but those ones don't necessarily bother on money per se, finance per se. Yes, I'll look for those ones and share with you. But in the meantime, I hope you know the contingency plans that the government has put in place, which is let's recall retired nurses and so on to come and assist. Except that I don't know how fit those retired nurses are to be able to assist under the circumstances. But anyway, otherwise, Iguama.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Let me take this opportunity. As well as today, the BEC people are starting their exams.
Today,
so we need to wish them well. So I take this opportunity to wish all our BEC people across the country the very best. I was in the constituency over the weekend. Last Monday, I presented their assets, pens, pencils, rulers to all the students, both in the private and the public institutions. And looking at their mood, everything looks very poised for us as a country to get one of the best results that we can have at the BEC level. So I wish them well. And let me say good morning to my senior brother, Uncle Kwesi Pratt, for this morning's show. I think the issues are not too complex as we are made to believe. This is a matter of a collective bargaining agreement between government and nurses. Of course, the CBA was signed last year, but it couldn't be implemented because of a court action, as you rightly put. By the middle of January 25th, thereabout, the court had made its final declaration. And so the issues are back now for government and the nurses to go into implementation. So in the event where government thinks they don't have the resources us at the time to address those concerns. What should be the way forward? But the striking thing is that government since January 7th has been in power. It knows of this issue that had been in court because the Labour Commission has been on notice of this issue, these issues in court. After the court paved the way, the nurses, the association wrote a letter to government asking for this implementation to be done. We see them as part of essential service providers. And so the law requires that when you receive a notification from an essential service provider within 48 to 72 hours, government should call them for negotiation and continue deliberation. The reality is that since they gave that notice at the end of January, government had never called them to the negotiation table. It took more than 2 to 3 months before these issues came for deliberation. And so that alone is government's bad faith in keeping with the labor law. You see, at one point, we want to talk about legality of strike. Then at another breath, we are not complying with the same laws that regulate employer-employee relationship. And so that, for me, is the beginning of this. If government had engaged them from the time they wrote, government could have. We had the budgets ready in March. So government would have discussed with them and looked at its financials and then come to a position that, of course, though this is a signed agreement, we may not be able to do all the implementation. Looking at our budgetary constraints, why not absorb 1 or 2 or 3 of the demands and then let's push the rest into the next year or whatever. The roadmap that we are talking about now, that roadmap could have been discussed to avoid all of these unnecessary strike action. It is about the lives of our people. It's not a pleasant strike. Ankikwesi recounted an issue where even a member of the association itself, according to sources, requires a surgery. She is only one of many. Can you imagine the number of Ghanaians that are suffering because of these strikes? And so when you have the health of your people in jeopardy, when you have the health of your people coming up for consideration, I think government needs to do better than the posture it has taken. If it is about finance, the Minister of Finance is always invited to the negotiation table to tell the people how much is in the kitty. We have the benefit of a media budget, isn't it? Which is coming on in maybe July. What is the position of government looking at its fiscal space? And and CBA is a binding agreement. It's not an MOU. It's a collective bargaining agreement. So long as it is signed, it becomes a binding agreement. And so if you want to vary it according to government's own position because there's been a change of government or whatever, it is the government to just appeal to them, looking at the fiscal space, and then agree with them that, okay, looking at whatever it is, 2 billion according to the Deputy Minister of Finance per annum, for now is going to be challenging. And so what are the critical parts of these allowances? Can we absorb? What can we absorb? So you go to the negotiation table. If you rush to court and declare the strike illegal, that is within the remit of government to go to court and declare the strike illegal. But what has the consequences been? The people have a right. That's what an ex parte motion application, isn't it?
Yes.
So once they accept, they have a right to also go back to court and raise their issues. And so as long as these things prolong, the effect and the impact is on the good people of Ghana. That is why the minority part, and when we held our press conference by the ranking member, were of the considered opinion, appealing to nurses, that this is not just about government, it's about the people of Ghana. And so they should tamper mercy with justice and go back to their facilities and do it. But as much as possible, we're also talking to government, appealing to government that don't take these strong stands when government is bound by an agreement with them. Ankikwesi was talking about the likelihood of other sister organizations or other government agencies. There are processes and procedures to trigger negotiations of conditions of service. So it is not a matter of one going through due process, reaching agreement with government, and then because of that agreement, if you want to implement, it will create the need for other government agencies to also make demands on government. And their demands legitimate. If they were not, government wouldn't have signed those agreements. And so the part of the minister asking retired nurses to come and fill the space, I think these are very, very unfortunate. You don't expect that from government. I mean, you have a problem at hand. Is he aware that the retired nurses are also part of the association? Go and check their constitution. If you even retire from registered as a registered nurse or midwife, you are still a part of the association. And so if the association is on strike and the minister is asking retired nurses to come, what was the minister's information? Is the minister not aware that they are also part of it? And if you bring them to the table, even if they were not, but they are, even if they were not, for how long are you going to contract them? Are they not going to pay? Are those registered nurses that are going to pay? Do you know what it takes to bring retirees back onto the payroll of this government? So I think some of these posturing are unhealthy. My indication was that the minister had been quite good in discussions with them when these things came up. But the challenge has been the compromises from the Ministry of Finance. So I thought the Minister of Health will continue to engage the Minister of Finance and try and bring finality to their demands and not to threaten the nurses.
But engage who? The leadership is out there.
No,
they've
but
flown out of town.
I don't think government has said that they've called for meeting and the leadership have not shown up.
They have said.
I have not heard that. And if someone is traveling on official or whatever assignment, they always have representatives that will stand, that will hold the fort.
Okay.
So I don't think their absence is material for non-negotiation. Once they're out of the jurisdiction, they know the seriousness of this action. So they would have necessarily have representatives who would stand in and speak on their behalf. And if they need to come back, I know they will come back and do the proper thing. And so if government wants to engage, and we had this issue of roadmap, is it roadmap as in acceding to some of the requests? Like you were also indicating, and Uncle Kwesi said, you are hearing from different sources. I'm hearing from you two sources. The first source is that, okay, we agree to the terms, let's look at the roadmap as to its implementation. I think that is where we are. That is what should be done. The government should look at the issues before them. What can the budget absorb for the 2025 fiscal year? What can be moved into 2026? Even if you can't absorb all, you can even renegotiate and move some of the implementation to 2027. It's all about dialogue. But
the group is saying that you either implement it now. We're not interested in any long talk. Just implement it now. They've taken a stance. They don't want to shift.
No, Moro, we've all been to negotiations before.
Okay.
We all know how discussions go. You can always come from a very hard line. But it depends on what the counter offers are.
Okay.
If the counter offer is that I can't do anything because I don't have the fiscal space, what do you want me to do? So it is about the posturing. If government is ready to agree and say that I'm going for mediation, if these things have come up in August, September, I wouldn't be here saying government should absorb, because then appropriation would have been revised and passed by Parliament. But we have the opportunity in June, July.
Okay.
And so it is up to government to look at the demands and say that for this fiscal year, why? The energy levy that government brought, was it the intention of government as of January to bring an energy levy? It didn't. But when government saw it necessary, under a certificate of agency, it came to Parliament and passed it. Why can't government do that negotiation with them and reach immediate agreement? It is about the health of our people.
All right.
People's life are at stake. We cannot bring back life that are dead as a result of this strike. And that is why the minister, who is supposed to superintend over the health of this country, should be concerned. And stop this issue of waiting to call and back up retired nurses who are already part of this. And you think they will come to affront the needs of them if they had this benefit? Do you think the current generation will do that?
Okay.
I'm so very happy that the Honorable Member of Parliament is able to describe the situation so graphically. People can die. It's even possible that people are dying. That's correct. I don't have the statistics, but it is possible that people are dying and so on. And then you have the Ghana Registered Nurses Association, whose leaders declared the strike and left the country.
You know why they left? Where they are going to? You know the purpose of their strike?
There can be no reason for declaring a strike and leaving the jurisdiction.
But he's saying perhaps the leaders have delegated their power to someone. We don't know.
It's possible.
That's how serious the leaders take the grievances of their members. They delegate when it comes to putting their grievances, fighting for the resolution of their grievances. They delegate power.
Yes.
That's how serious they take the grievances of their members. That's a statement by itself, you understand? But you paint a very graphic situation. If you were a minister of health, what would you do under the circumstances? The people who declare the strike are not available to be spoken with or to. The hospitals are facing this huge personal problem and so on. And as you say, people are dying. What do? You look for some measures which may not bring you optimum results, but which can cushion the situation. And recourse to retired nurses and so on is not a measure which I'm sure the minister would have taken if he had not faced all the pressures that he's facing today. You understand? In some jurisdictions, extreme measures like, the importation of nurses, have been applied and so on. So it is because of the pressures that this Ghana Registered Nurses Association is putting. That is what, if they agreed to go to work yesterday, nobody would have appealed to retired nurses to help. Nobody would.
So why is government not reaching some form of agreement?
Where are the people to reach agreement?
I'm saying that definitely there will be people who have been delegated.
Are you happy?
No.
Master, I beg you.
Yes, sir.
Are you happy with the fact that leaders of the association declared...
How many of the leaders have flown out of the country? You've talked about the president. Do we know where the vice president is?
Are you happy that the president of the Ghana Registered Nurses Association declares a strike and flies out of the country? Are you happy with that situation?
I can only comment on it when I have the facts as to why she's out of the jurisdiction. We've had several instances where emergencies will cause someone to go out there still for the interest of the people. I don't think she will be so callous. I don't think she'll be so callous to just declare strike and leave.
I saw her in the media.
And
somewhere in Europe, I think in Sweden or somewhere,
yes,
busily laughing, very happy, receiving awards. Is that the emergency?
How do you talk of emergency? I'm only talking about
is that the emergency?
But if she's out of the jurisdiction, the reality is that somebody would have been delegated.
Maybe she's gone to Mayo Hospital to seek medical treatment.
But the pictures I saw was not of the president of the GMA receiving medical attention. There were pictures of the president of the GMA, very well dressed, in a very happy mood, receiving awards.
When is she expected
back? How would I know?
But you know she's left.
I wish I were her secretary.
Maybe she's on her way back. I will check her, but I'm sure she's on her way back.
But just the fact that the strike was declared and she left the country or they left the country doesn't sound right, does it?
No. I think we all agree that you need leadership, particularly the president, to be in the jurisdiction to engage government.
Fantastic.
That is
fantastic.
But as to why she's out, let's agree.
So let's grant her the benefits of the doubt.
Exactly. But whatever it is, she has to be in the jurisdiction.
But you agree that the optics doesn't look good.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
It creates a certain impression that she's not taking this so striking seriously.
I'm calling on her to return back to the country and lead the discussion, because there's a difference between the president or a chairman and a vice.
Exactly.
Because she is the one who signed to those agreements. So my call is that wherever she is today,
come back.
The leadership and the members of the association should demand her immediate return to face government. But before or during her presence, it is what the government is putting on the table that will cause an immediate return. And I'm saying that government should not say we have not budgeted for it in 2025 and so we have nothing to offer. Government has an opportunity under a revised budget oncoming to do something about it. And it is about health. If it is about transport, like you said, even if I am unable to pick a car, I can use a bicycle or walk and I'll still be in good condition. But when it is about emergencies, surgeries, health, that people's life are not because the person who is affected, who is a Ghanaian, doesn't have even the money to go to hospital and be taken care of, but because the nurses are on strike and government and the nurses have not broken a fair compromise to return to post, and that is where we should.
I take your narrative very, very seriously, and I like to work with your narrative. And your narrative is that this collective bargaining agreement was signed a couple of months ago, before the current administration came into power. There were other nursing associations which felt that the agreement was not in their best interest. So they actually went to court. And that is why the agreement could not be implemented.
Absolutely.
This is your narrative. Now, if this is your narrative, at a time when there was uncertainty about the legality of the agreement, who could have factored that into the budget?
No, but that was completed in January.
Can I finish?
Before budget was read in March. We read the 2025 budget in March. So before the March, they had written to the ministry.
Fantastic.
So the government had time.
So at least we admit that at the time that the contestation was going on in court, you could not consider this as a valid agreement for implementation.
I agree. That's true.
So we agree.
Yes.
So we are saying that this agreement became validated in January.
That is so.
Agreed?
That is so.
Okay. Now, when the agreement was validated in January, I'm sure that none of us would disagree that it then called for a roadmap for implementation.
True.
That's correct.
True or false?
That's correct. If engagement was to.
Those engagements could have taken 1 week, could have taken 2 weeks, could have taken a month or two.
That's fine.
Dependent on the attitude of the parties involved in the negotiations. True or false?
That's correct. True.
So if you factor all of these things in, it's not like you have a government which is intransigent. The agreement was signed way back and it's not being implemented and so on. You need to see all of these steps. Whatever it is, today we have a problem on our hands. And the problem we have on our hands is that the nurses are refusing to work. And us.
So the challenge was that when they notified government after the court decision, government did not call them for engagement. So government brought the budget without engaging them. And that was why
but that's their side of the story.
But that's why I've heard the Ministry of Finance. Again this morning, the Ministry of Finance is saying that some of the decisions which were reached in that agreement were actually incorporated in the budget. Some of the allowances. In fact, the Ministry of Finance has said that. The Ministry of Finance has said that those which were factored in the budget, they are ready to pay now. So then it seems to me that the unfinished business has to do with what was not factored in the budget.
In which they're insisting.
And when that will be paid. Those are the outstanding issues. So it's not as if even government is saying that, look, all these demands are not realistic, we are not going to meet them and so on. They're saying that, look, we accepted some of the demands which we incorporated into the budget. For what has not been incorporated into the budget, we are ready to sit down with you and work out a roadmap for implementation. It may cause some delay. It may cause some discomfort. But everybody in the process is suffering some delay. Everybody in the process is suffering some discomfort. You understand? So if you have a situation where The striking nurses said that as for us and us alone, we don't want any discomfort, we don't want any delays, we want what we want and it must be now. That's the problem.
Yeah, but
especially given the importance of their work. Nurses are very, very important people.
Okay.
I mean, the doctors will tell you that they cannot perform their duties
without nurses.
Yeah. So when it comes to healthcare delivery, nurses are a very important category. Yeah, so, and we should treat them with utmost respect.
Yeah, Uncle,
but here are the difficulties, you understand? And how do we address these difficulties? That's the challenge.
Yeah.
But you see, Honorable, if you would permit me.
Yes.
Maybe not now. At a certain stage, I will give you my very humble advice. Give you a very humble advice as a political leader and as a member of a political party which finds itself in peculiar circumstances. Maybe that will be later. Okay.
All right, so speaking about health, we do know that our former finance minister, Kennedy Agyapong, is receiving treatment at Mayo Hospital. At least that's what his lawyers tell us.
How do you know that?
That's what his lawyers tell us.
That's the claim.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what his lawyers tell us.
Fantastic.
And but the Office of the Special Prosecutor is insisting that he attends to the invitation for him to be officially charged and statements taken and then take it from there. Now, the latest twist to this saga, or ongoing saga, is that the family of the former finance minister, Kennedy Agyapong, have actually waded into it, and they are making a number of demands. Now, when I saw this statement 2 days ago, I was a bit hesitant in, taking it seriously, basically. And my reason was that it was a letter which had no signature. We didn't know who exactly were these family members, whether they were a nuclear family or whether they were an extended family, etc. But then I noticed that almost all the newspapers, well, most of them would say are credible newspapers, and even some of the online portals have carried it. Maybe they don't have the same concerns that I do have. And so if you look at today's Daily Guide, for instance, it's also been published in today's newspaper. And it says, Oforiatta's family files OSP, petitions Interpol, and the story is on page 3. And it says that the Jibril Abdulrazak says the family of former Minister of Finance, Ken Oforiatta, has hit back at the Office of the Special Prosecutor for re-declaring him wanted and a fugitive of justice, as well as causing him to be placed on Interpol's red notice. The family, in a strong worded statement, has made several allegations against the office, including abuse of administrative power, violation of human rights, and manipulation of judicial process. Now, the family has also petitioned the National Central Bureau and the Commission for the Control of Interpol's files for deletion of the red notice issued against Mr. Oforiatta. The reposting of the wanted poster was a premeditated, theatrical stunt, a public lynching to portray a man scheduled for cancer surgery as a fugitive from justice, the family indicated in the statement. The family has also provided clarity that the former minister will return to Ghana after his June 13 surgery to face accountability, which is not evading. The OSP on June 2, 2025 re-entered the name of Mr. Oforiatta on the list of wanted persons and declared him a fugitive from justice in relation to an ongoing investigations into corruption and corruption-related offences. Now, the office has triggered processes for the issuance of an Interpol red notice of a location and provisional arrest of Mr. Oforiatta in whichever jurisdiction. Now, this was after he turned down a request by lawyers for Mr. Oforiatta for a video recorded session instead of the in-person session requested by the OSP. On June 5, 2025, Interpol placed Mr. Oforiatta on the red notice and said he's wanted on the charge of using public office for profit. But the former minister's family is accusing the OSP of sidestepping both legal and administrative processes and rather bent on publicly humiliating Mr. Oforiatta while ignoring the health challenges he is facing. The family has also accused the OSP of likely manipulating evidence to procure an arrest warrant dated February 11, 2025, before declaring Mr. Oforiatta wanted and a fugitive from justice on February 12. The arrest warrant was procured under unusual circumstances. The court records are not clear as to how the OSP secured the arrest warrant without a filed affidavit, which is a matter pending in court for which the Interpol office at the Ghana Police Service had been served, the family noted in the statement. The family further indicated that following the unlawful declaration in February, the OSP has taken to the Human Rights Court for using media briefing to declare Mr. Ofori-Atta wanted, a power not sanctioned by law. The family is not happy that despite the pendency of the case, which is scheduled for a ruling on June 18, the special prosecutor on June 2 disregarded the ongoing proceedings and contemptuously repeated the declaration of Mr. Ofori-Atta as a wanted person, even though he was ready for a video-recorded interview while attending to his health, to allow the OSP to elicit a caution statement until he's fit to return to Ghana. So, Mr. Kwesi-Bratt, the family of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta are not happy for a number of reasons. Do you agree with them?
Well, I share the concerns that you expressed earlier on.
Yes.
And these concerns that I've seen a piece of paper with these claims on the piece of paper.
Yes.
I've seen no names at all attached to these declarations and claims and vituperations and so on. I've seen no names at all. So I don't know who, issued this statement. And the question of capacity has not even arisen as yet. And so on. So I share the concerns that you raised. They are legitimate concerns. Be that as it may, there are issues about the laws of Ghana. There are issues about investigations into suspected corruption. And I'm using my words advisedly. And there are issues about, really, the presence of persons of interest, suspects and accused persons, in investigations and so on. Now, I think to start with, the law is very clear that no accused person or no person who is likely to be accused has a duty to assist with investigations which will lead to their own prosecution. So even if you commit murder, you cannot be forced to make a statement. You understand? And in some cases, I'm told that even if you commit murder and you plead guilty, the judge will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf and so on, because of the processes and so on. So Mr. Ofori-Atta, either as a suspect or a person of interest in investigations and so on, is not under any obligation to provide any evidence to the special prosecutor or to answer any questions from the special prosecutor. And therefore, his absence from the country ought not to be a bar to the investigations.
Right.
This is a valid point, And this is purely from the point of, Now, that's one. Two, Mr. Ofori-Atta himself has said that he's willing to come to answer questions. So he's not insisting on his right to remain silent. Okay? He's not insisting on his right to remain silent. He wants to come, he wants to answer questions and so on. But he's claiming that the bar, what prevents him from being here, is his health. And I find that extremely strange. My brother, if you did a study and you went to our prisons and holding facilities, which would include the cells and so on, I'm quite sure that you'll be amazed at the number of people in prison, either facing conviction or on remand, who have the same health condition that Mr. Ofori-Atta has or worse. Prostate cancer is not some strange disease from Mars. Many men after 45 get prostate cancer. So there are many people who are facing prosecution, who are being interrogated and so on, who have that. And I think one of the things that our law does is to state very clearly the principle of equality before the law. You understand? Now, last week, My good friend Felix Ofusukwachi brought up the case of somebody who was tried in the ambulance matter.
Yeah.
The guy who was claimed was partially blind at the time. He had health conditions which were so debilitating he couldn't walk.
That's Mr. Animena.
He was in a wheelchair. And so,
the health ministry.
Aye. Under the previous administration, he was wheeled to court to face trial.
Right.
How is Mr. Kenuforiata different from this guy? In terms of rights, in terms of law and so on. How is he different from this guy? He's certainly not different from this guy. Then, my brother, there's something else which I find most interesting.
Okay.
Mr. Oforiata claims that the reason why he cannot be in Ghana to assist with investigations and so on is his ill health.
Yes.
How do you prove ill health? Do you prove ill health by sending laboratory reports? You don't send laboratory reports. When I read the statement which was made on his behalf, that statement indicated that he was willing
yes,
to show, how do they call it, a pathologist laboratory examination report to the OSP. How do they call it?
Is it a biopsy?
A biopsy.
Yes.
That's a laboratory report.
Yes.
That's a laboratory report. Now, somebody like Mr. Ken Oforiata, given who he is and what he became and so on, he doesn't know that a laboratory report is not valid evidence of illness.
But haven't you seen the doctor's letter to all of us?
Hold on, my brother, hold on. I'm coming. I know what I'm talking about. Okay. So a lab report is a useless document. It doesn't attest to anything.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, a Ghanaian citizen has written to the hospital in question.
Okay.
Yes, a Ghanaian citizen has written to the hospital in question.
Okay.
Asking about just basic facts. Is he in the hospital? Is he being looked after? Would his health condition be sufficient grounds for him not coming to Ghana and so on? And the medical facility wrote a very simple response. It says, we don't disclose anything about our patients if they are patients.
Really?
Yes.
This is very interesting.
And that the facility said, we would not even tell you whether we are looking after him or we are not looking after him. Finish.
But that's the same facility that sent us the biopsy. The same facility whose medical doctor sent us a letter saying that the man is being treated for these medical
So
conditions.
doesn't that raise questions?
18 esi. Quick one, the time already a copa into my menfa submission and total so the BB intime and coso one ever man what I say. Oh, yeah, in a yenim nano, dear, your papa Kennedy Agyapong. Okokan no kwa okokan ewo Mampong hene ayase omuwie ofo ayi na se no na se de Bible kora kam ade bia wo ye no ma wadi nko ho na ye ne yi wo ye school ni ayo ho sua ade wo ye amama kai se ne BC for ne hyase yankopon kan mo wo ye BC ni na wo hweme a yankopon kan ho na ye unso pass exams enti ya papa Kennedy kopie mu ayi na se na o ka se oh me a politician nti no o se me den me gada nkofo kakra na me kasa kakra kire mu because a politics and a moment self film nine your friend Kennedy Agyapong no enti ya papa de to just no de ne ba opeso oba no opeso oba obebu MPP opeso oba no obebu Ghana enti delegate ni duro ho no ma mo nkohwe obi a omode na akopen amanipa na adinto not I mean wadinto over opepi mienu 2 million 2 million wadinto pao 2 million vote iti ma mo mfasa ni panenko sen we na ye papa Kennedy Agyapong ko kan ye na MPP fo binom aw mo susu se papa na kasa a disaster o mo susu se papa no dia wo so ye ni party ni ma ne se onyi sika de bi on fambo party no na nkofo binom enjoy no no de the writer or senko betim de deep part in the name obetim abed lady Ghana no sa I mean sa writing on so intimi exercise na we na nsem bebre akoso ene anopa ena amadaku awoye communications team member Edma Dr. Muhammad Bawumia Echo Movement TV. Chema wutumi one of his TV station I wo and crying. What I say and crying. Na okopie honom no. Ensema awrano eka ina ni say Dr. Muhammad Bawumia from aka kiro mo say Hon Kennedy Agyapong ye papa obeka bia no ma omu mfi no. I hope you got it right. I hope say nsena meka uti ni Osi ye papa Kennedy Agyapong Bawumia na esie amadaku apie na no say ensem bia Kennedy beka no ma communication na mo kasa ma Bawumia no bia nkan obi amfi no abusia ekire se ensem okai na simply the open na opa change na ni se Dr. Muhammad Bawumia so mbeka ya mrebi atwam ne nkrofo no mudi na chi biti se adomako ba afi biti se hawa kumsin biti se nse o madu agiri akwa nipa di kware sen Frankana dompre and untuminum no mo atake ya papa Kennedy mu di papa na te even abronye yi na nsi ya ko be di papa Kennedy Agyapong atem no ni na ne sey Bawumia eno show bukutupa eno mo be kasa ansem ma senye Bawumia na show bukutupa me bisahu esi dan ena saa niema we si a anase ye ko elections a omutimi ba ebegu papa no ho fi na se papa de bi na no oka bia omusi de bi ono de wa brichi mra wato mra ejisi den ne amada kusi papa ye Bawumia afro mo se mu bia mu enkasa into bia nka na no ntum onso kan so bia kan na otum ejimi bisa se Bawumia recently anase nsema etwam na bo omudi ye papa Kennedy Agyapong atenya Bawumia na share kire omudi saade no eno kwesa se Bawumia wo na share kire on se sa se mu expose Bawumia amada ku be expose Bawumia onim se na obeka ma Bawumia aginim but onim se na oba be expose Bawumia enti Bawumia ito eka kire Ghana for say any MPP for say and atema ombe so ogu papa Kennedy Agyapong so na si abronya atemo bedi Kennedy Agyapong Bawumia ntimi anka ana ote ho no bi ohwe no Bawumia na hye kire e ka sanketo bi a kire MPP for say na mo beko na mo forget about 2028 election me na me ka kire mo don't forget it because me ti say na no koka say whoever akwana ni ti hu tron de say yedi nkuto agu awiem no ensema ni koka eka ina ne say ensema ni koka eka ina ne say koka ensema no eka ina ne say Kennedy Agyapong anytime bia NDC for be floppy a mo kom asem no ni Kennedy afa we sem means na o de asem MPP asem aba no mo ja sansem no mo konto kwa internally na mi koka we na adwin ni ho kwamben so no fire in politics kwamben so no fire in politics mo NDC mo MPP for how many times na aka chem say mo party ni mo achiche to the extent say obitimi do obi atem na mo je nipa no obi ko kan bia ko si ya twin nipa na suspend no Sarah Joseph ondi obi atem okromada ombi na no nsi obi abo kwasea bet communicators te sa bronye eni no mo kaka edi atem si baifo se kwasea nyina mo ye nti se obo suspend obi a Sarah Joseph no was serve party for so many years ebi na no so kana kwara ma sore si ni so se mo twena ko discipline committee won se me ka cha won se sa discipline committee dem ko si bebia mun ti bi mfre ni bio abai na pampa we se mun ti bi amfre no okoduru honum no okoduru honum mamba no won se ni ngwase up to now mun ti bi amfre no Justin Kodia won se mun ti bi amfre no it tells you how weak your leadership is. How weak your leadership is. When someone to be afraid, me catch them. Someone forget it because wouldn't mean friend, papa, wouldn't mean friend, my many bill because near Bonnie Bia, the my friend disciplinary committee. It is answer no more can near my moye and Bawumia and a share chill this age man. Bawumia who be who's level. Tray be here. Kennedy Agyapong ebedi party ne ma mo san nkofo nyina mo nya access to party no even ade was in kaboye because we are going to sanitize the system ebema party no aye krabe for comment to like share na for you makro bia bye bye.